You might remember us, the ones in the red shirts.
We can't afford guns being the leading cause of death for children and teens in this country.
Whether you're Republicans or Democrats, you can't look away.
We're not going to shut up until we get the change we deserve.
Thoughts and prayers are no longer enough. We need to take action now.
You didn't get this far by saying you can't. You didn't get this far by just being mediocre. You moms demand action, and that's what we demand.
Welcome to Movement Builders, a show about the people ending gun violence in America, all of us.
I'm Kaylin Ford.
And I'm Nikita McDaniel. Y'all, it is so hard to believe that we are halfway through 2025. This year has challenged us like never before. And yet, all of you have risen to the challenge and met this moment with courage and urgency it demands. And y'all, guess what? We are actually out organizing the opposition, no matter what they try to make us think. From packed advocacy days in states across the country to 10 years of Be Smart, and also more than 500 Wear Orange events this month. You have taken action, and it matters. And so we're here to remind you all that even when the work is hard, especially when the work seems overwhelming, what you do matters.
That's right, Nikita. And we know there are plenty of times when it feels like it would be easier to just give up than keep going. And it can be hard to stay focused when it feels like the bad news is coming fast and furious out of Washington, D.C. But it's very clear to all of us that no one is coming to fix this for us. We are the heroes our communities need. And we have to keep doing this work in our communities, in our state houses, and in Congress, because if there's one thing moms and students and our community partners are known for, it's never giving up when lives are on the line.
You got that right, Kaylin. This is a movement and not a moment. And in order to really do the work right, we need to honor the wisdom and the expertise of the folks doing this work on the ground every day. And in my role, I have the honor to travel across the country training with and learning from our incredible community partners. These are the individuals and organizations who have done this work over decades, and many of them are survivors of gun violence. They have lived experience, and their lived experience and connections to those who are most impacted actually thrust them to the front lines of this work so that we can win this fight. They know the solutions that their communities need better than anyone. And yet, they have to often fight for funding and support that they need to do this life-changing work. In fact, the Trump-Vance administration recently cut $169 million in funding for community violence intervention programs. They canceled grants that were actually midway through their cycles and were already saving lives. People woke up and like their money was literally gone. Mm-hmm. It's a reckless and cruel game that they're playing because these numbers are not just numbers on spreadsheets. They're actually people's lives that they're actually playing with, and we don't like it.
It's disgusting. And so it's more important than ever that we find ways we can support our community partners and work shoulder to shoulder with them. Because gun violence prevention isn't just about guns. It's about addressing the root causes of violence and supporting people with the resources they need, not to just survive, but thrive.
Yes, and we are honored today to have two amazing guests to talk with about the work in ending gun violence in their community of San Antonio, Texas. Bennie Price is the CEO of Big Mama's Safehouse, a nonprofit dedicated to preventing gun violence and supporting survivors. And Cori Ferraro is our community gun violence lead for the state of Texas. Welcome, Bennie and Cori, to the Movement Builders podcast.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for being with us.
So I'll just jump right into it. Bennie and Cori, thank you both for the work that you're doing in your community. I love the motto for Big Mama's Safehouse. Help is not on the way, it's here. Y'all are not waiting at all. You are doing the work now. So Bennie, tell us more about your work and what brought you to this movement.
First of all, thank you for having us. What brought me to the work is being a victim and a perpetrator of gun violence at a very young age. And being formerly incarcerated, having my young mind corrupted as a youth to participate in gangs and gun violence. And then when I had the opportunity to live long enough, mind to mature enough, I found out that I had been lied to. And one of the things that I've been lied to is about who your enemies were. And they said because people were not from my immediate community, that they were our enemies. And so they created the conflict in between us, and we started to have wars within these communities. And so for some reason, I took to the gun violence. Don't really know why, but just know that I had seen so much of it in my community. And so I became a victim of it, to be honest with you. And without no excuses, after 23 years of being incarcerated, I was granted my freedom, and God gave me a vision to start Big Mama Safehouse. He would send me back to San Antonio with the truth. And now that I know the truth about guns, drugs, gun violence, proper education, proper housing, the need for, to be honest with you, for a two-parent home, and the need and the resources that the community needed that it was lacking when I was growing up hadn't changed. As a matter of fact, it had gotten worse. So that's what brought me to the work. I know the truth now, and I can't live without going forth and letting people know the truth, because they are living in darkness and they are being lied to much more than I was.
Thank you, Bennie.
Bennie, thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thank you so much for doing this important work in your community. We're so lucky to have survivors of gun violence in this movement like yourself with us. Cori, how did you get involved with Moms Demand Action, and what does being this movement mean to you?
Well, thank you for having me here today. It's great to be with you. My family has been directly impacted by gun violence. And so in 2019, after learning about Moms Demand through some friends, I signed on as the local Be Smart lead in San Antonio, working on secure storage education. And not long into that role, I pivoted my focus to community gun violence prevention, eventually taking on this role of Texas State Lead for community gun violence prevention. Because reducing gun violence in the Black and Brown communities that bear the absolute disproportionate burden of gun violence and incarceration in our country is extremely important to me. The work that we do in community violence prevention is more than just public safety work.
Yes.
It is racial justice work. It is human wellness work. And it is about transforming lives and empowering people. It is not just about giving someone a second chance in life. It is about giving them a first chance. And that is what this movement means to me.
Thank you so much, Cori. This second question is for both of you. And since you're talking, I'll let you start us off. How did you meet and start doing this work together?
Yes, well, I was doing Be Smart work with a wonderful woman named Rose Williams, who is now the executive director at Big Mama Safehouse. And she started talking to me about this man, Bennie Price. She kept talking about him, who had this mission to heal the community, his community on the east side of San Antonio, and that he'd recently opened the Safehouse. So I just got really excited about his mission and his vision. And so one day I visited the Safehouse, wanted to learn more, wanted to see it, and Bennie and I connected, and the partnership has grown from there.
Match made in heaven. What's your take, Bennie?
So my take is the same story as Cori's. I can't say it no better than that. What I would like to add is, I think how we really was able to meet is because I was just starting off. And I believe Moms Demand Action was kind of looking a way to get into the community, right? And I believe it was something new for them, They had already been doing great work in other sectors, but I think as far as the community go, I think it was a great opportunity for them to connect with Big Mama Safehouse. I think just the timing was, perfect. I know it's perfect for Big Mama Safehouse because we wouldn't be where we're at without their partnership, like without their guidance, without their wisdom, and like they really have lifted us up from where we were, and we couldn't possibly have done the work and had the kind of impact that we wanted to have without that partnership.
Oh, this is melting my heart. All of you have such great people working with you on this work. Bennie, we know that this work is about addressing the root causes of gun violence. And gun violence is a huge problem and the issues that contribute to it are so many. Can you tell us a little bit about the services and support that Big Mama Safehouse provides to the people in the community?
Yes. So the number one service that we provide is our community violence interrupters program called the GREAT. And GREAT is GREAT, and it stands for Gang Rehabilitation Ending Affiliation Ties. And we're credible messengers. We have a few people that are from the community who are credible that almost do this work for free because they believe not just in the work, and sometimes not even just believe in saving lives, but sometimes they just believe in me. They believe in the change that I've made, the lives that I've been able to save, and they believe in that. And with that, it has grown into them learning about CVI, right? And then they notice that it works because they have experienced it. A lot of times, we have already been doing the work, didn't have a name on it, but we was doing the work, right? And so that's the number one thing we do is really trying to get out here and be credible to intervene, mediate this gun violence that we know is going to happen. And I can honestly tell you that we've been doing a very, very good job at it. Even like today, I'm doing a mentor of one of the youth because the parents can't really handle them anymore. So I'm having to fill in the gap for that because if we don't, we know that's going to lead to somebody else embracing him and going down the path for guns and gun violence. Also, we have a food pantry because we know that food is one of the root causes. If you can't give somebody something to eat when you're trying to help them, they're probably not going to listen to you.
That's right.
Another one of the big things that we have is we're part of the youth workforce. This year, we're hoping to have at least 40 kids working. Last year, we had 40 kids as well for the whole summer. And if you're in this work, what a summer does to the kids that are at risk for being perpetrators or victims of gun violence. And so it's very, very big for us to be a part of that because we know how impactful that is for them and their families. Also, we've had resources for mental health. That program I think that was probably the most surprising program because we know of the stigmas that our community that we serve about going to see the doctor. But that program went very, very well. And so that's also addressing the root causes of gun violence, which is the mental part of it. So you have the food part of it, you have the mental part of it, and then you have the employment part of it. And so those three things, I think that we're doing a very good job at attacking, but I think we just need more help and being more impactful in those areas.
You said think. I know you making a difference. Yes. And you do need more support.
It's such incredible work and it's such important work, Bennie. And I know that the folks listening to this podcast are going to feel inspired to support other organizations like yourself that are doing this incredible work in their communities. So the next question is also for both of you. Supporting community partners really means honoring the work that's being done already, asking how you can support it rather than swooping in and trying to change it. So what are your tips for volunteers with Moms Demand Action or Students Demand Action who want to work with community partner organizations like Big Mama Safehouse doing this incredible work in a meaningful, authentic way that also respects the organization that's already there on the ground?
Sure, I can jump in. First of all, this work is about relationships. It is about getting to know our community partners as individuals. It's caring about their well-being, the well-being of their organizations, their participants. And because some of us do not share the same lived experience and the trauma that our partners have experienced, I try to approach people with humility and an open heart. Beyond this, I encourage volunteers to listen more and talk less.
Yes.
To center our community partners, not ourselves, as we plan events. And when there are questions such as, should we show up to a partner event in red shirts or not? Shall we add our mom's branding to a partner event that we're attending, that we're joining in on? Do we take the mic and speak or not? I encourage the volunteers to ask the partner what they would prefer, ask what they need, and then do that.
Yes.
Wise words.
Wonderful words. Bennie, what about you?
For us, the number one thing is presence and consistency. Sometimes just your presence alone is the most impactful thing that you can have and being consistent with that presence. Because normally the volunteers that volunteer have a different story. They had fought different battles, climbed different mountains, and had victories. And so just their presence alone, let's say if Big Mama Safehouse and we have a woman come say they want to volunteer, what can we do? Well, as a man, I can't have a certain relationship with a young girl. And she, and then knowing the community that we serve, she probably can't have that conversation with her mother because her mother might not be the suitable one to have that conversation with because of alcohol, drugs, other things that's involved. So the most important thing for us is just your presence. And once you come and give your presence consistently, you will find, where your area is, where you may want to volunteer. The other big thing is time. I remember when we first started and we was doing emergency housing assistance and people wanted to volunteer so much and we were doing it every day. And we did like over 500 applications a month,
Wow.
right? And the volunteers want to stay all day. And I was like, no, I had the policy. I was like, no, you're only going to stay 4 hours because you're going to have to stay a volunteer. Because yes, you want to do that and you want to stay all day, but what about tomorrow? Are you going to get up and say, how are you going to look at going to volunteer at Big Mama Safehouse? Are you going to look at it as a job? Or are you going to start looking at it as, as a volunteer? So if you stay too many hours, you start to look at it more like a job. And we don't want that because that means you're going to get burnt out. And so it's just very, very important that, you monitor the volunteers' hours because you want them to be consistent and keep coming back and having that kind of impact that you need.
That is amazing, Benny. And thank you so much for sharing that because I think that sometimes people want to just jump in and do it all. And one person doesn't do it all. One person shouldn't do it all. One person can't do it all. And so realizing that you fit into the team that's already there, that you plug those gaps where they are, means that you have the energy, the mental space to keep coming back. We learn as we go in this work, and sometimes we don't always get it right the first time. And that can be true of relationships with community partners, right? Cori and Benny, this question's for both of you as well. Has there been a time when working with volunteers hasn't gone the way you hoped? And did you learn from that experience? And how can our listeners learn from that experience as well?
Well, I guess I'll go first. I have one incident that really that sticks out. One of our biggest things is serving food to the community. Now, the community that we serve is food disparity. So we know that the food is very, very important. And so as an organization, I decided early on that we would not even serve hot dogs. We would never serve hot dogs or we almost would not, in the community serve pizza because that's like the norm. We wanted to make them feel special, make sure they get a full meal, right? And we cook it. And not only that, but if somebody comes through and gets something to eat and they come back through and want some more to eat, right? I don't think that's a problem. And so my policy is that if they come back and get something else to eat, feed them. But we had a volunteer that had said, no, I didn't see you here before. You already ate. And that was very, very offensive to me.
Yes.
And it really, as far as Big Mama Safehouse go, it went against everything we believed in. Is because you got to understand the community you're serving. The community you're serving, you don't know how long they've had a meal, when they're going to have their next meal, right? And the food that we have provided is for them. You can bring 100 plates, right? You might not serve 100 people. You might serve 85 people and give 15 extra plates to the families that need it.
Yes.
And so I had to pull them to the side and explain to them that at no chance are we turning away people who are asking for something to eat. But they have the thing where, well, you already seen them come through. I'm like, no. You can't decide what Big Mama Safehouse is going to do with their services, what they provide. As a volunteer, you asked us, say, hey, I had somebody to come through a second time, like, what do we do? How do we handle it, right? Is it a time limit, at the end of the event, what if it's at the beginning of the event? Ask those things, but never turn somebody away that's coming to get the services that we are out here providing.
What about you, Cori?
Well, I cannot think of a specific event that didn't go as planned, but I will say more generally, what has not gone as hoped would be the overall hesitation by various stakeholders to support community violence intervention, AKA CVI strategies. that are being deployed by community organizations like Big Mama Safehouse and numerous others nationwide. CVI is a proven public safety strategy. It has reduced homicide rates and shootings significantly, as we know, nationwide, in cities nationwide. And it has been much more difficult than I expected to garner the energy, enthusiasm, resources from stakeholders that we need to champion and sustain this work. I believe that this work can absolutely revolutionize public safety in our country, and it needs to be treated as such.
And Cori, as you said so perfectly, these are proven solutions. These are data-driven solutions. We're not talking about something that's nice to have or nice to try. This work is being done on the ground, and it's working. And it needs funding and support, consistent funding and support to keep working. So it's not rocket science, right? But yet some of our policymakers sometimes don't seem to realize how important this is.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for weighing in on that. We're definitely in this fight with you all, and however we can be supportive and making sure that funders and those that are given to the work can continue to make it happen. I know that this work can be hard, and it is a heavy weight on our hearts. It's hard work, and it's hard work. And we ask all of our guests who come here a very important question, so we cannot let you all leave without asking you this question, for you to share how you make time to take care of yourselves in this work. And I will pass it over to Bennie to start.
To be honest with you, in totality, I don't think that exists for me right now, because I'm kind of still in the beginning stages of building Big Mama Safehouse. So it requires a lot of sacrifice, a lot of time. But what I try to do is, and I haven't done a great job at it, is I try to blot out one weekend to where I can spend with my wife and my grandbabies. Like, I have 4 grandbabies, and I tell you, anytime I get to spend with them is refreshing, it's renewing. I mean, it's the best time of my life. But it's not a time of rest, I tell you that,
No. How old are these grandbabies?
1 7-year-old, 2 3-year-olds, and 1 2-year-old.
Wow. That is not restful. As the mother of a 7-year-old and a 3-year-old, you got to have eyes in the back of your head.
I remember I had to babysit for a couple of hours, and I dozed off. And when I woke up, I'm telling you, I was like, it's kind of scary, but I want to say they don't let me do nothing. Like, I can't even go use the restroom. They're not going to do papa. One of them going to always find a way to sleep with me when I'm there at home. And the other ones is early in the morning. They get up, like they don't even get up that early, but they're getting up early and they just come knocking on the door and saying, Papa, are you in there? Because I have to spend so much time away.
I heard you and I felt your spirit with all of the things that you are doing. So you feel like you don't really have a lot of downtime or time to think about yourself. So I'm just going to tell you, and I consider you a friend, Bennie. I'm going to tell you, make sure your physical health and your mental health are taken care of. And I'm going to send you some tips on some quick things you could do, and with your wife and grandkids, just because I know that the work that is ahead of you is a lot. And I care about you and want to make sure you're here to do it. Okay, my brother? I love you.
I'll jump in and say that I can't beat that. I mean, Bennie, that's beautiful. And I wish for you more of that time. I have learned that getting outside and walking every day is very good for me. Nature and fresh air are healing for me. So I try to do that every day.
Me too. If I get outside, even for 20 minutes, 15 minutes, I see a difference. Thank you for sharing that, Cori.
Yes.
That's right.
We all know that you're incredible advocates with very busy schedules, maybe too busy schedules in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of demands on your time. This work is all-encompassing, and it can really feel like, as Bennie said, there is no downtime. But Bennie talked a little bit about being with your grandkids. What are some other ways that you like to fill your time? A favorite show, a favorite podcast, a book, a hobby, anything that kind of takes you away from things for a little bit?
To be honest with you, I really like traveling. And everywhere I go, right, I'm a tourist. you know. And so that's one of the most beautifulest things that you could ever experience, going to another city, another state, and just finding out, you know, the things of that city, of that state. I love that. And so when I retire, God willing, I hope I'll just be able to just, you know, do a little traveling.
That's amazing. What's one destination you've recently gone to that you really liked?
I like Vegas. I like Vegas is because you get to go to Vegas and it's not real. You know, you get to go to these shows, you know, you enjoy yourself, and then you come back home to reality. And so that's one of the things. But I was my dream destination is a cruise to Alaska.
Oh,
like I really want to see the icebergs. I really want to, you know, I really want to see that, you know, and have the fear of even crashing, you know, the Titanic and stuff. You know, I want to have, you know, that's my dream. That's my dream.
Oh gosh, we're gonna make that dream come true for you. I know you didn't mention this. I just had a flashback. You're a great dancer, and the moms enjoyed dancing with you at GSU. So I don't know if that's something you enjoy doing in your spare time, but more time dancing with your wife and your grandkids, I wish on you, because you are a dancing machine.
Yeah, my wife don't like me to dance because I think when we got married, I outdanced her at our wedding, and she hadn't been able to come back from that.
Well, you were out dancing the moms too. I was off the floor, and I seen this crowd around. I'm like, where's that action? I gotta go see. I got up there, and these moms, I was like, first of all, I didn't know they can dance, but you were wearing them out now.
Yeah. I am a dancer.
Yes, same.
I love that.
I love that, Benny. I love that. For me, when I'm not working, I am typically driving my kids back and forth to athletics practice and music lessons. But what I really love when I have time for myself is to curl up on the couch and watch some good French TV series. That's my happy place. That's my happy place. I do. I used to live in France, and it is, I mean, even being there is really my happy place. But if I can't be there, I'm watching a series, and it takes me away, and I love
awesome.
it.
More time for you away, too, where you can be where they speak French. I send that energy towards you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate that.
It's just
I'll
really
take
important
it,
we
Nikita.
ask that question. We don't let anybody leave this show without talking about the things that they do to relax and unwind. And then also I think we have commonalities with the folks that are listening. They see that human side of us even more.
And Cori, you know, and Benny, Texas folks are known for being tough. Texas moms, Texas advocates, Texas volunteers, you know, you all work in a tough climate, a challenging state. You're not afraid to call out the NRA when they come to town, not afraid to stand up to the gun industry, not afraid to tell it like you see it. So tell us a little bit about, Cori, if you want to start, what has been your favorite memory as a volunteer so far being in this fight?
I actually have two memories I'd like to share, if I may. First of all, back in 2021, Big Mama Safehouse and I worked with a coalition of advocates from around the country. We met privately with city council members of the city of San Antonio. We spoke at town halls, and we submitted a grant proposal to advocate for City American Rescue Plan Act funding for Big Mama's CVI programming. And when Big Mama Safehouse finally received that grant award from the city over a year later, that was definitely a memorable day.
Awesome.
That was huge. And another favorite memory, quite different, but it was a conversation that I will never forget that I had with the director of another partner, another CVI partner named VIP Fort Worth. And the director of that organization relayed a story to me one day about taking one of his program fellows, well, several program fellows, and this happened to be a young man he was referring to who was at high risk for perpetrating gun violence, and was on a trip with him, took him to California as part of BIP Fort Worth's transformative travel strategy. And he was describing watching this young man become absolutely giddy with joy while walking along the beach in California with his feet in the ocean for the very first time. And he continued to share various stories like this with me about the young men in his program being deeply impacted by the travel experiences in that program. And that was very, very powerful. Very powerful.
Yes.
I'm gonna tell a story I think that really changed the trajectory of Big Mama Safehouse, to be honest with you. I was invited to a Moms Demand Action, like a monthly meeting, and didn't know what to expect. But what I had saw from moms up until that point wasn't a voice that I would normally hear. The picture of the people weren't the picture of the people that I would normally see. The concern about the well-being of youth was not the concern that I heard normally, from the people about our youth. And when I went to that meeting, I found out that just because people don't look like you, people don't sound like you, and people don't have the concern that you have, the way you feel like they should have them, good people are good people. I remember them asking not a lot of questions, but just some profound questions of concern, of trying to get closer to understanding an organization like Big Mama Safehouse and the community that we were serving. And that changed my whole trajectory. My defenses went down, because before that, you can see and watch so many movies, you can read so many books, you can watch so much shows, you can hear about so much stuff, and then here it is, you're in a room with what's supposed to be that, and it's the opposite different. It's like totally different. And so that not just opened my heart, but it opened my mind. I've never said this before, but I think I'm more grateful for being invited into that little space. Because remember, we've been invited to the White House, we've been invited to state capitol, we've been invited, but just being invited into that little space was probably the greatest space and had the most profound impact on my life. And so I'm thankful for that. That's my story.
You are one of the realest, Bennie. I cannot thank you enough for imparting your knowledge on us here. So much love. I am always a strong advocate for the work that y'all are doing, and everyone else is here too. So just thank you for sharing your heart and your transparency with us. Before I go to the next question, I think it's important for me to shout this out. I was sitting here thinking about it. I want you to talk just a moment about you being a published author and this book that you wrote that's inspirational and it inspires us to keep going.
Well, a lot of credit goes to my wife, because I had written stories that was unpublished. And for my 50th birthday, she kind of surprised me with a published book of my writings.
Oh, wow. Amazing.
And so she kept asking me, like, if you had a book, what would the name be? And I was like, okay, this is the thought. And so not knowing that, this is the gift that she wanted to give me for my 50th birthday. And so The name of the book is Before He Can Think. And it has a double-edged sword, because on one end of the sword, before he can think, I was committing crimes before the young mind was even developed. Like immature, corrupt thinking. Like you couldn't even really think, kind of. And then on the other end of the spectrum, my life had changed drastically because of those decisions that I made as a youth. Before I could even think, I couldn't decide to go in the right direction and just live my life out, because the consequences required me to be incarcerated. So before I could even be able to think of becoming an adult, I was incarcerated. There was nothing that I can do about that. I had to go pay those consequences, and I couldn't decide what the consequences were going to be. I knew that, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that God was going to use me in a powerful and amazing way. And so I began to jot down my stories. And the people that know me are totally surprised about my first offering, because, to be honest with you, they wanted to hear all the old stories of crime, of gun violence, of gangs, of drugs. They want to hear all those stories. But my first offering, I wanted to be able to could really use and benefit from my mistakes, from the things that I've learned and the life that I live now. And so that's what my first offering is. And I want you to know that all of you are in the book. You just have to come tell me, oh, Benny, this was me, this was me. But all of you are very much in the book. I guarantee you that.
Wow. Thank you for sharing your heart, and also super shout out to Mrs. Price. I have had the pleasure of meeting her as well when you all came to GSU with the community partners. Amazing to have such a strong, brilliant, beautiful woman by your side to support you, because she's a part of this work as well. My final question for you, Benny, is what gives you hope to keep going? What's your keep going? I know my keep going is my spirituality and my relationship with God. And I know I'm doing purpose-driven work. So even on the worst day, guess what? I know that I'm doing this work on purpose. And even in tough times, it keeps me going. So what about you?
I'm very, very close to the work. And to know that we would have some of the most dangerous people in life give me a call and I'm able to come to a peaceful resolution. I'm talking about people that we know will kill people. And I built relationships in this community with individuals that they will call and they would say, big brother, OG, uncle, Benny, hey, I need you on this one. And they would listen. I'm telling you, we are saving lives. At the end of the day, that's what keeps me going. I know that CVI, community violence intervention and prevention, is saving lives. That's what keeps me going at the top. The other thing that keeps me going is when you help a kid that's on the verge of being a perpetrator or a victim of gun violence, and you send him in that other direction, and you see how he blossom.
Yes.
You know, just the thought of, you know, these kids don't only have an ID. What do they need an ID for? But you're pushing them towards that way, getting things that they're going to need, because remember, they're not adults. And when they start to get those things, and then they say, Benny, y'all got any jobs available? And I say, yeah. And they already got the ID. Nothing can stop them. That's what makes me keep going, because that's what Big Mama Safehouse is doing.
Benny, I have goosebumps just hearing you speak about that and the way that you're able to take young folks and help them find their path, you know, and make those choices that allow them to have the future that they deserve. It's wonderful work. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Cori, final question for you. What keeps you going?
What Benny just said, supporting that work, changing those lives, helping and supporting Benny and all the other heroes who are doing that just fundamental work. That is what keeps me going.
Wow. Well, I hate to say one more question, but we always ask this one more question to take us out of here. Is there anything special that you all would like to share with our volunteer leaders to keep them inspired during these very turbulent times?
I would say that take a look at the work that you've done. You know, the work that you've done has been impactful, has saved lives, has changed lives, and you've put organizations that you volunteer with in a better position to do more of that work, to be more impactful. And we can't do it without you. That's the biggest key. Why should you keep going? Because we can't do it without you. We love you and we want more of you. Big Mama Safehouse. Help is not on the way. It's here with our volunteers.
It's already here. It's already here.
I might just offer that when we're feeling defeated in this movement, when we do not see change happening fast enough, it might feel unattainable, that we need to think about the battles for justice that have been fought in this country since its inception. that we have to think about the extreme sacrifices that have been made, to include the sacrifices of Bennie Price and the people that he works with and the people in his community. And we think about that, and let's let that inspire us to keep going.
Yes.
Thank you both so much. This has been such an inspiring conversation.
Yes, I have some keep going in my spirit even more. Y'all fill my cup.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Thank you for being on the podcast with us, and
Yeah.
thank you
Thank
for
you.
sharing your stories and yourselves with us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for this time. It's been wonderful.
Y'all, this conversation with Bennie and Cori was so powerful, and I'm going to take that wisdom and share it back in my own community. We also want to remind folks that our Everytown for Gun Safety Support Fund's community partner micro grants are open. So if you know an amazing community partner that you're working with whose work intersects with gun violence prevention in your community, go ahead and apply. You can request up to $1,500 to support community partners and the work that they're doing in your community, and the applications are open until October 5th.
Thanks, Nikita, and thank all of you for listening. We got so many amazing messages from you after our last episode with Elna and Kathy. Here's some of what you had to say. Nadia B. in Texas told us that she just listened to episode 12 at the recommendation of her local group lead in Texas, and it was so great to hear about someone going to a gun show and having productive Be Smart conversations. She says being in Texas is so demoralizing with the wild rhetoric and extreme positions, and this episode is just what I needed. I'm an LGL for Austin, and we are trying to bring the energy to our volunteers while many of them are feeling so down. Thank you so much, Nadia, for listening. We also got some great feedback from Terry Ann, the Hawaii State Legislative Lead, who said she's listened to 2 episodes so far. She says, I learned so much. Thanks to you and your awesome guests. Well, thank you so much to all of you for listening.
And keep going, y'all. Don't forget to send us your thoughts, feedback, and stories to movementbuilders@everytown.org. And again, that's movementbuilders@everytown.org.
And please keep sharing this podcast with your fellow volunteer leaders and team members, and tell us what topics you want to see us explore in future episodes. This is our community. So thanks for listening to Movement Builders. I'm Kaylin.
And I'm Nikita. Thank you for all you do to save lives. It's working.